and I wanted to welcome you to my channel, There's Always Room For. This channel has been a dream of mine for a few years now, and I just never got a chance to sit down and film these tutorials for you, but I figured now that we're all safe at home for this quarantine, you know, what better time than to actually get this started? And what better way to get it started than with a tutorial for how to sew your own face masks. If you own a sewing machine and you can sew straight lines, then you should have no problem making these face masks because they're relatively easy. So if you want to learn how to sew a face mask, follow along.
You will need 3 separate pieces of fabric, 9 inches by 7 inches each. You can use 2 different patterns, one for the front and one for the back, or you can use the same pattern for both front and back. Floral wire, which is optional. You'll need double fold extra wide bias tape, 3 yards in one package, a ruler, scissors, needle nose pliers, wire cutters, a smaller pair of scissors, and some sewing pins. To get started, take 2 pieces of fabric and face them right sides together. Fold the fabric in half and press down with an iron. So we're going to want to sew about 2 inches down from each end of the fabric, leaving the middle unsewn. Don't forget to backstitch. Trim off the excess threads. Repeat on both sides. And now take the top and bottom corners of the piece of fabric and fold them together. You now have a pocket. For a clean line, press the edges down with an iron. Now take your last piece of fabric and lay it right side down. You can pin the fabric in place if you'd like. And now you'll want to sew a straight line down each shorter side of the fabric with a 3/8 inch allowance. Don't forget to backstitch. Now turn your fabric inside out, and both right sides should be facing out now. Press the edges down with an iron. To help with the pleats, fold the fabric in half lengthwise, press down, and then fold each half in another half, being careful not to burn your fingers. So this will give you nice, evenly placed crease lines so you can pleat the fabric later. Your bias tape comes in packages of 3 yards each. To get the most out of each package, I cut the pieces to 36 inches, which will give you 3 separate pieces from the 3 yards. Find the midpoint of your strip of bias tape and unfold the bias tape. Align the top edge of the bias tape with the top edge of your mask. Pin in place. Repeat those steps on the other side. You'll want to sew a straight line along the crease that is closest to the edge of the mask. This will connect the bias tape to your mask. Don't forget to backstitch. Fold the edges of the bias tape over, and now you have a neat edge on your mask. This next step is completely optional. You can add a wire nose piece to your mask using floral wire. Cut a piece of wire that is smaller than the width of your mask, and I'm using needle nose pliers to create a loop at the end of the wire so that the wire doesn't stick out of the mask once it's sewn in. Tuck the piece of wire into the top of the mask and secure with a pin. Next, you'll want to create a barrier so that the wire does not move around by sewing a straight line down the bias tape. You'll want to sew this straight line up and down multiple times to make sure that it's secure and the wire will not poke through. Now you'll want to finish off your bias tape. You're going to fold the bias tape right side out and sew a straight line multiple times up and down. Take your time with this. This is probably the most tricky part for me. Trim off the threads. And cut close to the seam. I like to take a sharp tool, so these little scissors, and push it into the edge of the inner corner so you get a nice sharp edge. Repeat this for the remaining straps. To finish your mask, we'll start sewing from one edge of the bias tape, holding onto the threads at the ends for the beginning. The bias tape tends to get stuck into the machine at the very beginning. Once you've started, you can let go of the threads. Don't forget to backstitch. Hold the threads again and continue sewing. Sew straight line down using a 3/8 inch seam allowance. This closes off the bias tape. And continue sewing through until you get to the end of the bias tape, being extra careful when you get to the wire piece. I usually go slower here, and then I speed back up once the mask part is sewn. So here I'm just back stitching because I've hit the end of the bias tape. And I'm repeating it on the other side. So now you'll want to start with the wire nose piece up top and use the guidelines that we ironed into the fabric to create pleats. Pin the pleats in place. The pleat should be going down from the direction of the nose piece. Now we're going to want to sew a straight line down the pleats to secure them in place. You can use anywhere between a 3/8 to 5/8 inch allowance. I use my fingers to help guide the fabric through since it's a little more bulky where the pleats are. Repeat on the other edge. Trim off the excess threads and remove the pins. Give the mask one final press with an iron, and there you have it. This mask has the wired nose piece, and it expands to conform to your face, and it also has a pocket in the back for a filter.
So that's a wrap on today's tutorial. I just wanted to say thanks for tuning in and following along. I hope that you and your family and your loved ones are staying safe and healthy. And if you can just sew at least one mask, I know that would make such a difference in one person's life. So I wish you luck, I wish you health, and I will see you guys next time.